Everyone, welcome back to FMA Talk Live. I'm your host, Datu Tim, and this is my wonderful co-host.
PG Tye's back. Welcome, everyone.
Yeah, man, it has been a while, actually. We've taken a couple weeks off, and then last week we were supposed to be back together. PG Tye had a family commitment, and as I always say, family first. And then we had our pitch hitter come in there, Dean Franco.
That's right.
So, and of course, he's rubbing it in. Hey, I'm just here to take over. And
hey,
there we go.
Mr. Rich.
Master Rich, how you doing? From Flint, Michigan, north of Detroit. So, how you doing?
Pretty good. Just tired. Good to be back. The family thing went real well. That was, in case anybody wants to know, my son graduated high school, so family was in town. We watched that. So now I guess I have to treat him like he's starting to be a man. No, he's amazing. I'm pretty proud of him.
So, hey, and oh, by the way, let us know who. Okay, so depending on which platform you're looking at, we may not be able to see who it is. We have evening gentlemen. So please let us know whom this may be. Congratulations to him. Very good. And greetings from the Bay Area. Matt, how you doing? So congratulations, Ty, on your son graduating from high school. And I give you my condolence because now you have to pay for college.
Well, he's going to be smart. He's doing the first 2 years of local community college, Nova Community College, that gets you into guaranteed admission to any Virginia college later on. So,
and that's it. So there we have ECC, which is Erie Community College in the area. So Janice's son dropped out of high school due to medical condition and dealt with it and came back strong and got his GED, went to ECC and he was on the dean's list.
Awesome.
And then he went to UB, University of Buffalo, on the dean's list. And now he's making more money, making more money than Janice finished from her career.
Wow.
Decent career. And Mike Pryor, Lyman, how you doing?
Oh, Max.
We missed you at camp, man. We missed you at camp.
Chris Nally was one of the Facebook folks too. So
okay, good. Chris. Well, we love Chris. So, trying to figure out which. Okay, so I've
you have rants?
Well, actually, I've been posting my rants, or I've scheduled them, and actually, they're articulated quite well. So I will give everyone a preview. I'm not going to read what I wrote, but I will tell you when to look for it. So tomorrow is more a motivational thing. Bad bronchitis. Yeah, well, we still were, we missed you, my friend. Always thinking about you. And you know what? Stay safe. Stay healthy. Okay.
Yep.
So tomorrow is a motivational post. Well, I had one today. Well, actually, I'll tell you about the news, what I did over the weekend. Tomorrow is a motivational post being, talking about stuff. And then, Wednesday will be the I don't care who the biggest fish in the pond is. I'm a whole nother animal. So that post goes out Wednesday. And then on Friday, another post, and you'll be able to find these on Instagram, although Facebook is usually bigger. This weekend's post I put up, I didn't realize how limited there's a character limitation on Instagram. So I had to trim it down, but we'll talk about that in a moment. But then the other one is I have my little take on seniors versus elders. So in the martial art world, we have our senior students, and then we have our elder students. And, the elders are the ones that started before us that have a lot of sage advice to share with us. They may have been around for, a couple of years to maybe decades more than other people around them, but, doesn't necessarily mean that they've made the same commitment as others in the art. And as we see this in the education world where we have people who started their education later and have passed others because, Sometimes people have life commitments where they can only take 1 or 2 courses per semester because they're bringing up a family or something. So, and since martial arts is part of the education aspect of things, I just took and put my take on it. And, I think we need to understand both. We've talked about it off and on here, but those get dropped. Wednesday will be I'm a different kind of animal, and Friday will be the senior versus elders. So, love to hear back from people on these. Hey, Joe Rebello, how are you doing? So this past weekend, I actually competed in the martial art tournament. That was the big thing. Actually, this is where I found there was a limitation on the posting. So I took my students to a tournament. I told the host that I was going to compete. He put me under an alias name, and he's an Italian friend of mine, so he put me under Vincenzo Hart. I'm like, really?
Nice.
So I've been into the Italian community. I'm good. I'm glad you're doing well. Saw the picture from that photo shoot, Joe. So I went out with no prep whatsoever because for those of you who've been around here, we've talked about how I've had some health issues or challenges with my leg, plantar fasciitis and a heel spur that broke off in my right foot, as well as a car accident, which ended up having 100 cc's of fluid taken out from my left leg. And the week of camp, I had the last shockwave therapy and the first treatment on my knee, and it was a significant difference to the point. It was to a point where I didn't think I actually contemplated canceling the trip to Brazil. That's where my health was. That's how injured I was, and I was concerned about the performance. So I actually did a whole big post on this. I was proud of all my students. One of my black belts judged for the first time, which was really cool. They did a decent job. My student Ryan, here we go. He won stick fighting. Go figure. He tied in kata. They had to do a tiebreaker. I'm like, oh wow. Hopefully, a magazine cover and scared us at the symposium. Oh yeah, because of how banged up I was. But the demo came out really good. Joe sent me some video footage of that and stuff, and I was walking around like Yoda.
Maria from Canada is the one that says greetings, by the way.
Oh, okay, great. So, so I got first in here. I got first in weapons, second in kata and stick fighting, and third in point fighting. And after I got home, there was a post on the internet for the adult divisions. I was the overall grand champion, which shocked the hell out of me. And I put it down. Like, listen, I'm turning 68. I'm 58, turning 60. I'm not jump starting. I'm turning 60 in 2 years. And I'm putting a timeline on some things that I want to do. It's not about, people always talk about getting out of your comfort zone. I don't have a uncomfortable zone. I'm just in the zone. I do things. So I want to do some things to challenge myself, stuff I wouldn't normally do or stuff I haven't done. So I did the tournament and I was very pleased. I'm usually judging and coaching. And considering that I didn't prep for the tournament. And, people sit there and say, well, Tim, you're a grandmaster. Is that fair to compete in these things? I go, well, if I practice sport karate, like some grandmasters do, they're sport karate grandmasters, and I was training that day in, day out, then no, I don't think that would be fair. But I'm busy coaching and teaching my students. I don't get to put anywhere near the quantity of time that I want to put in myself because I have other responsibilities. When I came up, I used to train as much as my students, if not more, because I used their time. And I got it wrong back then. I was good training partners for them, but really I should have been teaching. And I've taken a whole different coaching. And that's why I think a lot of times when you see black belt-itis, when black belts become fat or gaining weight, I'm like, You know what? No, they're just rolling into their role, and they just got to make extra time for training. A lot of times we forget to do that. But I had a really good outing. I had about 8 or 10 people that went with us. Everybody placed in something, so that was good. I think the youngest was 6 years old. 6 to 16. Then Ryan is 20, which shocked the hell out of me. I forgot he was 20.
Huh.
And then I was the top of the field at 58. Actually, I think I may have been the oldest competitor at the tournament.
Huh.
So we had a blast. Looking forward to getting the team back out there. I don't think I'm going to be going to competing in that venue again, or at least not for a while. I picked the tournament that I was comfortable with, as far as it was a good mindset, a good vibe, a lot of camaraderie. I know the people. I trust the people to give me the best fight they can and not take a cheap shot at me. You know, let me see here. Once in a blue moon, and once every third blue moon on the equinox, I do a tournament too. Okay. So, but I had a blast, and I'm proud of my kids on all the different levels.
That looked fun. I haven't done a tournament for a long time.
Yeah. I was just shocked that I was second place in kata. I mean, I looked at the video because I got video footage. I'm like, yeah, I rushed it. I know. Actually, I wish I would have had footage of I did the spear form, the one I did at camp, except this time I did it right. And I wish I would have had footage of it because, I know what the people around me did, and I like to look at to see where I need to work on some things. The nice thing was I saw in my kata or anyo, I rushed it, and I'm just used to doing the weapon forms where we're a lot quicker, less drama. I complain about my students. They go, "You guys are rushing it," but I do the same thing. So, but all in all, it was pretty good. Rant, I've always got something. Actually, with these latest posts that I put out there, I feel cleansed.
There you go.
It's like, all right, I put it out there. I put it polite and PC, and I told my piece, and say the closest thing to a rant right now is that, and this is something I'll be writing, so I'll give you the prequel. I love how anytime something bad happens, it's always my fault in our industry, and I'm causing trouble, versus people are pissing me off and I'm standing up for myself. It's always assumed that I'm the bad guy, but as has been told to me by people around me, well, Tim, you're the most visible, you're the most accomplished when it comes to Remy's people in Remy's art. So, hey, it is what it is. Yep, I did get it out of my system. So, but I will be putting some more stuff up like that. And I think I took time to put it out right. Actually, I think when you see these upcoming posts, you'll be like, "Are you sure that's you, Tim?" This was me way back in the day, back in the Martial Talk days and FMA Talk, where I took a long time to sit down and write. Now things are flowing a little better. Actually, the thing I found out works real best, I didn't realize that Word has a dictation mode. And it is so much better than my phone. And I am so much better verbally. So now all I have to do is just, okay, let's check the punctuation. Was that a run-on sentence? Blah, blah, blah. And so now what I just do is I pull up a Word file, and I have my microphone, and I just start talking, and pop, there it is. And if those who are in a similar situation, because, dyslexia, or let's say it all works here, but it doesn't work to here, start dictation. My God, it's just amazing. And I think that'll keep me more on point on shows like this, because I'll just say, hey, another one's coming out next week. So I have 2 this week and then more next week, So I want to talk about our upcoming shows. We have 3 shows, then we're going to take another break because I'll be in Vienna, Austria, at the World Championship. Actually, Graz, Austria, which is where Arnold is from. Arnold, the Terminator. I've been to his house. He wasn't there. He was scared.
I saw there's going to be a lot of neat people there. Torbing's going to be there, right?
Yes, he is.
Awesome. Well, give him
My
a big hug
favorite
for me.
Danish guy.
Yeah, give him a big hug for me.
I will do that. Oh, yep. Make it a lot easier to write my books. Yep.
There you go.
So this week's show is about whether the International Modern East Federation, the IMAF, was, while Remy was here in the States before he passed, it's about Remy. It's not about his students. It's about Remy. Was the organization a standalone, or no, was it an organization or more of a personal branding? That's tonight's show. Next week, we're going to talk about who should be promoting, who should be able to promote people to black belt. Now, that one has already gone ballistic. While I was down in Brazil, people had a hissy fit. A lot of adolescent nonsense. If people would have just called me up or reached out to me, I could have probably pushed a lot of that down. And one of which is I have to take responsibility. I talked about this last week on one of the graphics. When I put that up there, I put a black belt with a no logo through it. Well, it was mine, which has the 10th degree notation. And of course, people thought I was taking shots at the 10th degree promotions that have come through the IMAF Philippines, and Roberto Presas is signing off on it. And well, I've made my opinion on that in the past, but that's not what this show's about. And we've talked about it time and time again. And listen, because the question was, am I questioning Ernesto or Roberto's ability to promote? No, I'm not. I know exactly what his ability is to promote or whether he should or shouldn't. We'll talk about that. But lo and behold, how could I be hypocritical and not acknowledge any of those when Ernesto Presas promoted me in 2007 to Grandmaster? Matter of fact, the only one of Remy's students he did that. So, but he was very clear about that the promotion was incompetente because he didn't have the ability or the right to promote in his brother's art. And I apply that same concept to Roberto, because if Ernesto, who had a huge organization and a bunch of people, couldn't do it, Roberto, another world-class martial artist, but was more support for Roberto or Ernesto, and maybe had 20, 30 students of his own. He didn't really have an organization the same way. But, you know, we'll address that once again when we're there. And a lot of things I'm going to talk about, Tye Botting was there because he would tell us these things in the Philippines when we go to visit his house. So,
Yep.
Let me see here. Steve Benko, good evening. Nice to have you back, Ty. How are you two
Good,
doing?
thank you.
I feel really good. Actually, it feels weird having you back. I'm love that you're back. Oh, I have another one. Good evening, gentlemen. That one doesn't show up.
Me too.
It's weird because it's been so long.
Yep. I mean, it was for a couple of reasons. It was a good reason. It was good to have a break. But yeah, definitely.
And you know, and Dean did a great job.
No doubt.
You know, we talked about seminars last week. You know, like running a seminar. Oh, from Darren. Hey, Darren.
Hey, Darren.
So, yeah.
In a couple of weeks.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm leaving before Craig is driving through. Oh, there's Jackie. Hey, and Jackie.
Hey, Jackie.
One more little derailment before we start the show. Jackie is hosting Ty this weekend in KC, right?
That's right. Actually, I'll get there Thursday, and we'll start some early fun on Friday.
Okay, so if you haven't seen it, it's up on the website. It's also on a Facebook group, and we've massaged the description a little to be a little more robust, to give a little description of things that are going on. But by all means, go check that out. Kindred Protective Arts. But if you go to our Facebook page, you'll see a link to that. If you go to the website, worldmoderneast.com, or is it Kindred? Do you know the website? Jackie, what's your website? We're gonna have a blast.
Yeah. That's the name of the seminar, I believe, right?
We're gonna have a blast. That's the name of the
There you go.
We're gonna have a blast with Tye Botting.
There you go.
So she'll get the URL up there for us. So let's get into it. So
kindredprotects.com.
kindredprotects.com. Very good. Okay.
I knew it was something like that.
Okay. So the IMAF, the International Modernist Federation, was it Professor Presas' personal brand? Was it more a personal brand than an organization, or vice versa, or a hybrid in between? And we're only talking about how it was after he came, the duration that he moved to the States. So we're talking from about like 75 up until 2000, which is when he had to step down due to the last year of his interaction as, or the head of the organization, was pretty much in 2000. I was with him when he got diagnosed in, I think it was late October in Germany. And that was the last time he had done anything. He'd just flown in from Tunisia. I was flying in from Plymouth, England. We met there. And then shortly after that, we had to take him to the hospital. And that was it. He was done. No more martial arts. He made one appearance after that. But other than that, he didn't leave Victoria. So we're talking about when he was at the helm. We're not talking about what happened in the Philippines. And we're not talking about what happened after he stepped down. So I want to be very specific about this, because I think people got twisted on this, and I want to make sure that everyone knows where we're coming from on this. So it's not a black and white statement.
Mm-hmm. Right. Which makes it fun discussion, I think, because of that.
I think this is going to be a very good discussion. Uh-oh. Did you see that? We blacked out?
No, I didn't see. Everything was fine, although you froze for a second.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll say it's not a black and white situation, and then my screen went black. So let's start off the bat. So we know how we put it. We put criteria of an organization. Was there a brick and mortar location, headquarters for Modern Anise? There's the first question. While Remy was alive, did he have a brick and mortar location for himself? Let's start off with that. Did he himself have a brick and mortar location that he based his art out of? Ty?
Not that I know of. And if anybody knows of anything, they should chime right in. But basically, he was the moving mobile home, basically.
Yes.
That's his brick and mortar. He was the brick and mortar. He
was a vagabond or a martial gypsy.
Yep.
So, so I'm gonna throw some things out there. So I'm gonna paraphrase Chris Chu. Chris Chu, on one of the shows we were on, I don't know if it was FMA discussion. I'm assuming it was FMA discussion. He talked about, he was making some comments. So first of all, actually, let's talk about something. I'm a Gen Xer. Okay, I'm actually, Ty and I are both Gen Xers. We're the first of the Gen Xers, because the Gen X started in 1965. I was on the tail end. We were both on we. I usually don't like doing the talking for the pair of us, but this is history. We were the tail end of the baby boomers, because we would have been in school with the baby boomers, but we weren't the baby boomers, because the Gen X starts in 1965. So, and for those who aren't old enough, listen, every era, every generation has the same thing. You don't know what it was like. You know, just like when our parents talked to us, you don't know what, like, they're right. We don't know what it was like. And their parents before them and their parents before them. So as an example, he was an Arnese nomad. Yes. Was he a partner in any clubs? Well, we're going to talk about that. We didn't have the internet, or at least the internet didn't start till 1983, and that was primarily used for what, Ty? You're more the internet guy than I am.
So what year? What year?
1983.
83. Oh my
The
God.
year we graduated college is credited for the year that that the internet was founded.
Right. So you're going to have CompuServe, AOL, but really nobody was hardly on it at the time.
Well,
BBSs were big around then.
well, let's say
Bulletin boards.
1983 was CompuServe, or was the internet more for colleges or think
Oh, well,
tanks?
the internet proper, yes, where things are directly connected, was essentially a bunch of FTP servers and
Okay.
linking a lot of colleges and research institutions, as well as U.S. things.
So when the internet first came out, most of us wouldn't have had access to it.
No, right.
You could have, because shortly after that, when you went to college, because you would have graduated, you should have, if you're like me, you graduated in 1983.
83, yep.
Okay, so the year that the internet was started was the year you graduated college. If the first university or college you went to had that set up,
Yep.
you could have had access to that. But you were an exception, not the norm.
Right. I was on an Omdal, what do you call it, mainframe situation. But I will say this, on the bulletin board systems, you had laggy internet. You could have email, you could have FidoNet groups that were discussed, networked amongst all the bulletin boards, and they could go back out to some of the other things. It was really, really messy and slow, but there was some communication, but it wasn't widespread, like you said.
Yeah. So I don't think the internet really became a consumer to the public or accessible to the public until like the late 90s, probably like 97-ish, 96-ish.
Somewhere in the 90s, to say. I graduated 87, so 90, I was running. Yeah, early 90s might have been some people, but again, you'd have to have a reason to start.
There we go. So in 1983, major colleges. Okay, Here we go. 1983, major colleges had connections to shared data, which we talked about that already. No search engines and stuff like that.
Yep.
Mid 90s, 94 to 95. Okay. Yep.
I ran bulletin boards from 85 to 95.
See, Fido was where.
Yep, FidoNet.
FidoNet. Yep.
Although I ran something on UUCP. Anybody know?
I don't know who this is. I'm Gen X as well, 1966.
Yep, that's the next one.
Whomever that is.
But yeah, so my bulletin boards actually ran on UUCP, which is like FidoNet, but for Unixes.
Yeah. So, yeah. So,
rich kids.
Oh, Ty, LOL. Okay.
Yep.
So, when we talked, and I hit him with all the, he was trying to figure out, because the comment he made to me, and this is in context what's going on. He goes, I met a guy went in this supply shop down in Florida, claimed to be Remy's East Coast or maybe his whole director, I don't know, and didn't know who my father was. How could that be? Well, let's put it this, and when I told him on a following show, I sat there, it's like, well, let me see. Yikes, Ty. You are you're very nerdy indeed. So when I say this, listen very closely. You're going to hear the first part and you're going to shut down. No one knew Bruce because no one knew who he was. Not because Bruce wasn't something or someone to be known.
Right.
But back then, the only way we got the word out was through magazines. And the names that would show up, here's the names that would show up. Remy. Okay? We're talking about modern East names. Then the host. Okay? Hey, Frank. Okay. So, and a couple of us who were doing seminars back then. I was very fortunate. I was featured in in Black Belt magazine. Well, a sidebar article, Modern East's Next Generation. Okay. Now,
that was actually the only reason I knew Bruce's name is because of a few seminars or a few camps that he hosted. For a short while there.
Hosting, and that's how his name got out there.
Right.
Like
and then the internal newsletters, right? For a while there, the internal newsletters got.
For those who, we're going to talk about that internal newsletter because there's a couple different things. So if people didn't know who you were, they didn't know who you were. Back then, my AOL for me was 93 or 95. My name got out there because I was physically going to these events. Ty and I, Rocky asked a question a couple of months back. How many events did you go see Remy? And there was 180 events we figured, and for myself, and 30 of them were training camps. Because I would see Remy monthly from the year I started up, and I would average monthly, which meant some months I saw him 2 or 3 times. People knew who I was because I got out there. If you didn't get out there, Terry Warham is known quite a bit in the modern age community as being the host of the most successful training camp. Not as being a martial artist. And I'm not saying that in a negative way, but his name was on the camp flyers all the time. And he was the one that set the bar for the training camp, and people patterned their camps after Terry's camp. Hell, Richard Roy went to his, I met Richard Roy the first time, I think. Yeah, first time was at Terry's first camp. And there we go. How you doing there, Terrell?
Hey, Terrell. How you doing?
So when I talked to Chris about this, Chris Chu, he was dumbfounded. You think about this. YouTube didn't start. Oh, let me see. Actually, you know what? I actually put this.
I actually don't know when YouTube
up somewhere, so I would have it. So I wasn't going to be taking things off the top. On what?
YouTube, beginning of 05.
What was it say? Yep. Actually, let me see if I still have it. I had all these things down. Maybe it was FMAT. Pioneers, tags, back. Oh, here we go. Back in the day. Back in the day. In 2001, let's see. In 2001. All right. Or actually, when Remy passed, 28.3% of the people out there in Americans had cell phones. Okay. Cell phones. 2001, after he died, or the year he died, is when cell phones that had internet. 2004 was when Facebook was created. 2005 when was YouTube created. 2010 was when Instagram was created.
Yep. Although my significant other would be mad that you didn't mention MySpace. That's 2003.
Okay. Okay. So all of this stuff, internet-wise, that we could have used to inform people of things, didn't happen until after Remy passed away.
Yep.
So so people all of a sudden, right now, what everyone usually says is, "Hey, why didn't we have this? Why didn't we have that? Because it wasn't available back then."
Right.
Can you imagine where if Remy would have been healthy for another decade? That means he would have passed in 2011. Okay. Well, actually, 2010 would have been 2010 would have been in the Instagram was created the year he would have. Man, I'm having issues here left and right.
Yeah, you're breaking up, at least for me. You're freezing and voice is fading in and out.
So,
I'm not sure if it's on your end or my end.
So 2010 would have been the year he I think it's my end.
It might be.
Let me look at my internet here for a minute. Oh,
that's what Rich says. It's you.
That I just did. That I just did. Hold on. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, all right. Yeah, that last bit with me. Let me check.
I was right though. AOL was 85. CompuServe, I
Okay.
think, was before that.
Yeah, but who was using AOL?
Right. Well, everybody has that free disk, or multiples probably. CompuServe, oh my gosh, 69.
AOL was
Although,
the second most produced.
yeah, CompuServe started going public for open access in 79, believe it or not. But that was just for email and stuff. So wow.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a whole nother animal, you know.
Yep. Well, I remember. So there's a neat point. I think in what 99 or 98, Remy cornered me before he started one of his seminar and asked me to specifically take some handwritten notes because he knew I took notes on his Abanico Corto, and he said he wanted me to get them to him because two things: one, video cameras with sound weren't working really well back then, and two, I mean, you could do the high end ones, but not everybody had those, and two, you couldn't post stuff videos. So I remember I wrote up two versions, a long and a short version, and I had to send it to him and a few other people by email. That's how we got him the notes. And really, what really happened is he didn't check. He wasn't able to get that, and I had to give him a handwritten copy.
I remember we were somewhere. We were at El Garza's, and he needed a phone number for somebody.
Mm.
This was at the first camp Al hosted. I think it was the 99. It could have been the two. Yeah, it was the 99 camp. So I'm going, hey Al, can I use your internet? Because I had Hotmail back then.
Right.
It took me 10 minutes to log into my account.
Right.
And then I got a phone number for him. He goes, oh my God, the internet is powerful. But we didn't have that.
Right.
So why are we talking about this? Because these are all things that are relevant to having an organization. Everything back then would have been done on snail mail.
Yep.
There was not an internet. And everyone listening today, if you grew up with the internet, I mean, listen, Gen Xers, okay? Here we go. Gen Xers weren't allowed in the house. We had to go out and play on our own. We come back at night. We drank from the hose. Yep. Okay. We were pretty much feral kids. You know, every day we went out, it was another episode of Survivor, jumping around on taking our bikes and jumping them over things that were much, much bigger than us. Yep. We didn't fight on the internet. We fought for real. Mm-hmm. We didn't have trigger words. We weren't gluten whatever now. We weren't allergic to gluten. You know, we're older than Google. We just said we're older than the internet. You know, no safe spaces, none of this other crap. This is the way it was. You know, and actually, I'm glad I grew up in that era because I really feel good where I am today. I'm really concerned about the generation today taking over, but I digress. But back then, you had to hop in a car and go see Remy. Mm-hmm. And when you consider how much money was worth back in the day, Remy's videos were like $50-$60. Mm-hmm. When when $5 an hour may have been minimum wage. Mm-hmm. You know, Evel Knievel generation. Yeah, we are the Evel Knievel generation.
Yes.
Yeah, look up Evel Knievel if you don't know who I'm talking about. And then just imagine a bunch of people on Pyromania, see Evel Knievel. Just and think about people on their little Huffy Thunder roads, which is what I had. It's a quasi BMX bike, jumping over shit that should never be jumped over. You know, I would never trust kids. I would love to see the kids do some of the stuff we did back in the day, but I'm also afraid they'd end up on a slab somewhere because I should not be alive based on the things I did back then as a kid. I'm surprised we didn't kill ourselves or each other. It was just stupid shit back then.
Metal slides, the metal round things with the things that spun each other around really fast.
Jarts.
I love jarts.
Lawn darts. You just throw them at each other.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. The world didn't start with it. No, it didn't. It didn't. But I'm talking about as a Gen Xer talking to the current generation, you know, so they understand what's going on here. Now, we talked about the baby boomers, too. And then there was Moses. That's Carl.
But I mean, like, the main point you said so holds true, which is every generation has a different viewpoint on what they're perceiving and what their basis is, their baseline. So I get that, but a lot of times, you don't understand why other generations are saying what they're saying and how they're saying it.
Yeah. So here, I remember sending out several hundred flyers in mail promoting seminars. There are no emails and advertising in Black Belt magazine. And this is the stuff that's when we talk about, it's relevant to this conversation because this is the era we were talking about.
Right.
And I don't know what this is. Do you know what that is?
Let's see. 310, 330, minimum wage.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So
I don't need many data points to figure stuff out.
Okay. So yeah, so think about this: 1990, minimum wage was $5.80, and Remy was selling, or $3.80, and Remy was selling videos that were $50 each, and I bought them. Now I was making more than minimum wage back then, but nonetheless, clackers.
Oh my gosh! Yes.
Together. Yeah, he's or using them as bolos.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So
but the reason this is important is setting the stage for how hard or difficult or easy was it to have an organization. Nowadays, it's pretty easy to have an organization.
Oh yeah.
Back then, oh my gosh.
So let's talk about it. Remy did not have a physical location that he owned outright. Now, Rich asked about this before. Was he a partner? So the Filipino Karate Academy, which was one of the IMAF headquarters at one time, Remy was a silent partner in that. That was the school I started in. Now, what was the role of that school? I don't know, because I never saw anything while I was there that would make it think. And when I got there, oh, perfect, Terrell. Terrell sent me a flyer.
Oh, nice. Oh,
Terrell and I are doing a seminar together.
Oh, those guys.
In December, yeah. Smoking sticks and modern Arnies, baby.
Nice.
So, we're smoking sticks, by the way, sticks. Although, when we're ready, I got my Monte Cristo right here.
Well,
so anyway, so I know of one school that he was a silent partner in. That was John Bryant's. Okay. Or an investor. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
I know that, or feel very strong saying that there was Joe Bridenstine down in Adamore, which is the Metro Philly area. He was helping run their organization because there was a newsletter that came out from there and actually did a really nice job. But when I was becoming more and more active, that kind of disappeared. So I don't know. I mean, Joe was a Kempo person first. So Joe Bridenstine was a Parker Kempo guy underneath Joe Palazzo, but he also was a student of Dr. G's. I think he did the Eagle system as well as being a student of Remy's. And he was probably the most influential person for modern Arnis getting on the East Coast because Remy attended the seminar down in Virginia, or was it West Virginia, in 1983. And then the following year brought him up to Philadelphia and started doing the camps there. And if it wasn't for that, I mean, now Don Zangi, the first guy to do modern Arnis in Buffalo, he actually went to the Virginia camp or West Virginia. I've got it listed here somewhere. I'm going to actually pull this up so I can stop saying one or the.
Okay.
One or the other. I definitely get a landline that I can up my system. I'm going to put in a Ethernet cable so it's hardwired in. Let me look at things here. But I see you digging. Is that good? Is that good digging you got there going on?
I'm just looking to see that for the later on in the conversation. There's one thing I want to pull up, but anyway, we'll keep going.
So I know of 4 entities that ran things for Remy. One's I'm assuming. I'm assuming Joe Bridenstine was a part of that. Okay. I don't have full confirmation. I'll have to dig I've got some hard copy newsletters from back in the day.
Okay.
I know that the late David Hoffman was the vice president for a few years and used to write letters on behalf of Remy to people. I actually got a copy of a letter of him kicking someone out of the organization after a lawsuit, someone getting hurt. And good evening from Sudbury. I'm assuming that's Craig, but we can't see you.
He's blocking you.
Yeah, I don't blame him. I think, and George Mazak.
Yep.
Was the third, and I was the fourth.
The Can-Am,
at least here in the state.
Chapter. Yeah. Well, that's what I was trying to figure out on George Mazak's. I have a certificate, but I can't remember what the name was. It wasn't chapter, but it was something different. Oh, well.
I'm going to pull something up. I think every time I pull something up, it's killing my computer because it's going offline to look for it.
Okay.
I have too much in the net and not enough physical here. Let me see here. I believe I have my Arnice seminar in Beverly, Mass. put on David Hoffman flyer. And you mentioned David Hoffman. Yes. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So
nice. I was going to say, so I only saw some of the various organizations in the 90s. So that would have been the IMAF, whatever that is, and we'll talk about that some more. The Mazik's organization that I think had the same name, and then the Can-Am chapter, the IMAF. Those are the only three I was aware of in the States that I can remember.
All right. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to drop out for a minute.
All right.
West Virginia was 83. That was what I was looking for. Keep forgetting to say West Virginia. Yeehaw. All right, but I'm going to log out. I'm going to shut my computer off. You take point for a little bit. I'll be back.
You might reboot your router too, just in case your cable router or whatever it is.
Same, yeah.
Okay. Let's see if it keeps going.
Yeah.
I guess so. Hopefully, Rich, why don't you send a note if you can still hear me if we're still going. I'm going to assume that we are though. So I was trying to pull out one of my rank certificates, which is Mazik's IMAF that was recognizing me, and Remy told us, several of us. Okay, great. Thanks, Rich. Several of us to join with Mazik because he was supporting all of the organizations that he supported in the States. And so that's sort of where I'm going to go with this, is that the organization, IMAF or whatever writ large, was really, in my perspective, at least during the last 8 years that I was associated with stuff, whatever Remy was doing in the States. And so there were 3 chapters, but to him, they were all part of his exercise, his mission, his vision for the United States, if you will. So judging by what I saw, he did not differentiate between any of those 3 organizations or chapters, however you want to call them, and treated them all equally and with his full support. Because like I said, from my perspective, the way that we talked was that it's all part of him. So there you go, Rich. The chapters were his bits and pieces. Yeah, sure. But just like we say that, or just like I mentioned earlier about thinking about Remy's brick and mortar school being just wherever he was, because that's where the roots were. It's kind of like the organizations that he was backing and supporting and getting people to do stuff. They were all part of his larger venture, his bits and pieces throughout the States. And so Frank chimes in. I can't bring you up, Frank. Sorry, but he says he has a certificate with George Masick's group as well. Also, it looks like encouraged by the professor. So Remy was promoting all of them as if they were the same. He was treating everybody who was in one of them or more of them the same. And they were all, in his mind, as far as I could tell, I'm not going to speak for him, but from my perspective, supporting him and, like I said, his efforts in the United States. So does that make it an organization? Does that make it a personal brand? I'm not even going to put a label on it, but that's sort of the approach, at least, how I took it for his interactions here on the state side. Obviously, I didn't see all of them, but, when he was around, when I was around him several times a year, I made sure to chat because I wanted to make sure I was on the right path, doing all the things he wanted us to do, and showing him that I was working on what he had given us the last time, that kind of good stuff. So Matt asks, Matt 510, what year did Remy start his seminars on the East Coast? I think we talked about this in an earlier few seminars, but I believe it was in the very early 80s or around 80. Don't quote me on that. And somebody else online, and maybe Joe or Rich will remember those details, or when Datu comes back on, he'll have the answer that we discussed in earlier in the shows. But that's what I remember, something along those lines. But that was before I started. Like, just for perspective, so you guys know where I'm coming from. Remember, I started in the earliest of the 90s under Eric Alexander. And after a year of working him really hard, he passed me up to Remy, and I was a direct student with Remy. So that was starting around 93-ish. So I knew some things that went on in the 80s, but not directly. Indirectly through working with Guru Eric, who I thank to this day for giving me a good start. But yeah, that's what I remember, Matt. Let's see, what else do I want to say about what I saw? During that time, there were some, not only, as Frank pointed out, a lot of ads that were sent out by mail, and a lot of us tracked what is Remy doing through the magazines. I always followed Inside Kung Fu. A lot of people did Black Belt Magazine, Karate Illustrated, all those kinds of things. Those were our internet of basically websites saying, hey, where is Remy going to be, when and how, and that kind of stuff, and who was hosting him, how to contact them, that kind of good thing. There was no online registration form, so you had to call the number, ask how to register, or write them and get the information that way. So that was fun. Or just show up if there was an address and it was nearby and you could just drive in. I was, again, thankful for all of the time that they were trying to catch up in Texas, because I sucked that up like a sponge. Definitely appreciated that. Datu's back. And you look the same, though. So I don't know if it's a better
I was
connection
listening while you were, I was listening on the phone.
I was making stuff up.
Can you hear me?
It's all live. I can hear you, yep.
I was listening to you on the, so Remy was doing seminars. I think he did some stuff in the 70s. Because I'm pretty sure yeah. I mean, he didn't blow up until the 83 camp.
Okay. And that fits with what I was saying about early 80s, 80. Frank says 81. He remembers Massachusetts.
Let me see here. Still going. Chapters were his bits and pieces. I had a certificate of George Mazak's group to encourage by professor. What year? I said he had done some things in the 70s, because he had been up in Flint. Like, I think Rich was saying that he was up in Flint, and the Michigan saw him in the 70s. Modern 81. Note: the text that you put on the screen seems to be fuzzy today. Yeah. I don't know. It could just be bad reception. I'm having bad internet on my end today.
Interesting.
Oh, and I just disappeared again. Hold on, I hit the wrong button.
Hey, Rich. Rich says, I'm looking for dates in Michigan. Rich, this is not a singles line. And besides that, you're taken. You're taken.
Yeah. So, I'm having all sorts of problems here with my internet. Maybe the fact that my dog just gassed me out. That could be the other thing.
That could make it fuzzy.
Yeah. Listen, so these, so yes, I am married. Yes, I know. I know you are. All right. So there was definitely, I look as a hybrid. It was his personal brand was the primary. I think he wanted an organization. And I think I did okay. I think when I got in, I did the best job because I had the best tools at that time. I had a website, which people found because we didn't have it.
Right.
Terry Warham was the best camp host that you could find because after every camp, he sent everybody their test sheets back, their diplomas, and a spreadsheet of everyone who attended camp and with their contact information.
Wow.
So, I mean, dude.
That's great. I remember. So, were you there when Tuhon Harold said that back in the day when he was first starting out, the only two websites he could find with modern was mine and AMAA. But mine wasn't a headquarters or anything. It's just, hey, this is my little hobby page. This is the thing I'm doing. Yeah. But I wanted to get something out there, so that was my slight contribution.
So Mr. Wolf says hello, and then we have what year did Remy start doing the Big 3 seminars?
Good question.
I want to say in the 80s, because I remember when I was at John's that there was something in a black belt magazine while I was with John. So I'm going to say it could have started back in like 87, 88.
That seems plausible to me.
Remy was the one that put those together.
Yep.
Datu, that sounds like a Chris Davison.
It could be.
I can't tell. It just says.
Let's see. Yep, Chris Davison, you got it. And Chris Nally was the one asking about the Big 3.
Yeah, Chris Davison. Davison beat me in point fighting, the bastard.
Okay.
He took me out in the first round for point fighting, but I got him in stick fighting. So,
it was Maria that said she was Gen X as well in 1966. So she's up there with us.
Okay. She doesn't look anywhere near as old as us. There we go.
Right.
So, I think there was eras where it was. I think it would go back and forth between the two. I said I had the best tools to utilize, and because I was out there going places, I was able to FaceTime with people. So Remy, when he told me the one time, he goes, "Tim, I want you to take over Canada." And it's like, well, just give me a good Girl Scout troop. I'll go over and take it out. Like, give me the brownies. No. So let me see. Who got the disarm though? Okay. You hit the stick out of my hand. It's all right. I'll give you that. Yeah, but I still beat you. It's like Vin Diesel. Inch or a mile, it's still a win's a win, buddy. Although I think we both can agree that our opponents hit us, and multiple times we both should have gotten 2-pointers when we only got one here and there, and some other things. So
always happens.
I think I hit Chris, and he's like, "That was only 1 point." I'm like, yeah, just like the one you got me before. It should have been 2. Don't worry about it. It's all good.
Yep.
Okay, and then hello to all. Amen. So Remy wanted me to go and start helping develop Canada because on my close proximity, we came up with the Can-Am chapter of the IMAF. Well, that probably had the most support amongst people. I pulled it up before. I don't want to risk doing this now. I'll risk it. Nope, we're not on archive.org.
Even in Texas, we knew about the Can-Am chapter. We didn't join because it seemed like it was, that era, that region. So we didn't worry about it. But we knew about it. Either that or you didn't let us join. One of those two.
Well, I didn't have a connection to Canada. I mean, to Texas.
Texas. No, I know.
And So let's go back in time.
You
We'll
pull
go
the
back
Wayback
to-
Machine up?
Yes, I did. And hopefully it won't break. Let's go early. Let's go early 2000.
Sherman and who? What was that show with the Wayback Machine?
Oh, Bullwinkle and Sherman. Oh no, I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
Yeah, it was
the
one
dog
of the,
and the yeah.
Yep. The white dog with the glasses.
Oh, I'm sorry, I did the wrong one.
Peabody. That's it. Peabody and Sherman. Thank you, Rich.
There we go.
Rich knows all the nerdy stuff. Just if I don't know their nerdy stuff, Rich knows it, and vice versa.
Yeah, I went to the wrong URL. Okay, so let me see. Hopefully I got the right. This is staff. So I'm looking at May. Okay, here, I'll share this.
I think your connection is better now for some reason, for whatever reason.
Okay. So I'm going to share this. Okay, so right here,
there you go.
U.S. Representatives, Eric Alexander, Rob Alexander, Michael T. Bates, Chad Doolin, Carl Minkle, David Nung, Brett Salafia, Steve Scott, Brian Zawolinsky.
So
Canadian
2000,
representatives.
Right?
That's May 23rd of 2000.
Okay, nice.
Canadian reps, Mike Donovan, Mark Benez, Close Protection and Firearms Consultant, Tim Murray, Legal Advisor, Kevin Black.
Scroll back up. I like that whole list of names. That's some history there. No matter how you feel about any of them, that's some history there.
Yeah, Eric Alexander.
Good stuff.
Boom. Rob Alexander, Michael T. Bates, Chad Doolin, Carl Minkle. I mean, okay.
That's great.
I love our. I mean, we're all connected that way. So, boom.
Yep.
Rob, yep. I don't remember who Rob was. We know Michael Bates. Not a fan, but that's okay. Chad, one of our board members. Carl Minkle, very good friend of ours.
Yep.
David Nung, I love David. Brett Salafia, Connecticut, another great guy. Steve Scott, no longer training with us, but he's retired from martial arts. He was a great guy from Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
And then Brian Zawolinsky, New England rep.
Nice.
These are the U.S. guys. And then I said Mark Benez and Mike Donovan. So this is London, Ontario.
Yeah, I met Mike Donovan, but I have not met, I don't think, Mark Benez.
Yeah.
Is he still active?
No. Life, okay. family.
Yep, it happens.
He was a great guy. It was a big loss for us, but just life happens. Oh, and thank you so much. No. Actually, I have come. So
you got pretty close.
When I had Crazy Hair Week, I had it shaved really down, and if you get the right proper lighting, it looks like I'm bald.
I think Rob Guida really liked your hair like that, though.
Yeah, because it made him look like he had long hair. Okay, and Paul, how you doing, Paul?
Hey, Paul.
So, I think there's a lot of people that had ideas, and life got in the way. Like David Hoffman moved. I mean, he went to Europe for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't have the internet like it is today, so there's no way he could run things over there.
Right.
We could look at. I mean, a lot of people went in a lot of different directions. And here's the thing: everyone's got to remember. And this might be a future show. Most people did it as a secondary art. Modern artiste was their martial hobby. It wasn't their martial calling per se or primary. I mean, you train your arts equally. Mm-hmm. Okay. How many people do you know that train the arts equally, let alone put modernities above and beyond their primary system.
Not too many, because you came up with another system. That's where your roots are, and you got a lot of commitment and loyalty to that, and that's pretty normal. It's understandable.
Yeah.
And that's where your home is, particularly in this circumstance, right? You only see Remy and the gang every once in a while, and then you're probably seeing your main style, main instructor, main students in your original style all the dang time.
Well, let me ask you this, since you brought that up, what do you think once in a while was on average? If we're talking okay, listen,
right.
We're talking the general, because listen, before we do this, I'm gonna put this down. I'm sick and tired of people talking about the exception as if it's the norm.
Right.
A guy did this once, like once a day or once in a lifetime.
Right. It worked that one time.
Okay.
So it works.
You got lucky, or you tried it 1,000 times and 1 out of 1,000.
Right.
If it's in the above 10%, I want to talk about it. If it's 1 in 10, I want to talk about it. If it's 1 out of 100, I don't care.
Right. Well, I can tell you what we saw in Texas. Remember that he was pouring it in Texas to try to catch up. And for that last 10 years, 8 years, I can tell you that what I ran across was, I would say, about 80 to 2/3 of the people would just see Remy maybe once a year if they saw him more than once. Some people would just do one shot and might not see him again. And then there was a smaller chunk that would see him 1 or 2 times a year.
So you would say that probably 90% of the people who train with Remy saw him once, maybe twice a year.
At least what I was seeing in Texas, yeah. So that's why we stood
out.
Yeah, and it's weird because I didn't think I was doing anything special, but we stood out, and it wasn't because I'm some gifted athlete, which I'm not. We just took it seriously, and it showed, which is I took as a compliment.
Out of the Buffalo groups, okay. Besides my group, I don't know of anyone who would regularly travel out of Buffalo to see Remy. Now, Dan Carr, we got him to go to several of the camps in Michigan. Okay. But then again, a lot of these guys in Buffalo are pampered when Remy used to come for weeks at a time.
Right.
2-3 times a year.
Nice. Yep.
So I mean, so it was a different animal for them. But I mean, I would go to these events and okay, so you popped around a lot. Chad Doolin would pop around a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But I would go to a bunch of seminars. So, I mean, I was a seminar rat. And I didn't put the same priority on going to camps that all the others did. But I went to 30 camps. I thought, one camp a year was fine for me. And if I got extras, that was bonus, because I'd see him pretty much every month.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see.
We didn't have that much in Texas, so what I ended up doing is I caught him every time I could in Texas, so which was probably once a season, 2-3 camps a year plus seminars, maybe 5 or 6 a year, something like that. So I poured it on, but I didn't have the opportunity you had, which is every month. So I just if he was in town or in the state, which as you know is as big as X number of states.
Yes,
I was driving there.
So was it Chris? This has got to be Chris. Yeah. I think your next show should be about that amazing spinning back kick you landed in sparring. All right. Datu Hartman. Okay. Joke of the day. People from Buffalo have been buffaloed. You got to work on your lines there, brother. So, yeah. So listen, Texas, for those who don't know, that's probably 3 states.
Pretty much, yeah.
Well, I mean, depends on which state you're from. I can't say 3.
Over 1,000.
But if you're talking about East Coast states,
yep.
If we're talking East Coast states, it's easily 2 of New York's. Do I want to look at that? Do we want to know?
I'm looking. It is. No, I can't tell who that is. Huh. It didn't show.
I wonder if that is the.
Oh, it's Chris Davison. Okay, it should be fine.
Yeah, I can't get to it.
I didn't try.
Scary.
Oh, this must be a picture of you, probably. That must be the you punching in the or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I gotta look this stuff up myself. I have to punch it in manually because I can't.
Right.
For some reason, I can't pull it up from there. But yeah, I
Oh, it's you doing the elbow strike with a gritty face.
Okay, all right, very good. That was some X4.
Ah, okay.
I did. Oh no, I'm not X4. I did X form with H4.
Ah.
Ryan did the same form. He tied for first place. So they did a forms off. So
nice.
He got second, but he won stick fighting, got second in form kata, which I thought was amazing for our niece guys. You know, because Ryan came up exclusively through me,
right?
And he tied from a system that is a kata specialist. So I'm very pleased with that.
Yeah. Well, he puts in the work.
Because he does.
Yep.
He just needs to get a little more weight on him so he can have that power. His form was legit. Okay. So, anyways, we digress. So, so the deal here is, a lot of people didn't see Remy, and a lot of people that Remy asked for help would still only see Remy once or twice a year,
right.
And things didn't always work out. Yeah. I mean, I had a good commitment because I was doing the art. I mean, so did Monterey's have a headquarters? Well, the Can-Am chapter did. Mm-hmm. That was my school. It's a whole school dedicated to Remy's art. And I had black belts up to third degree. That was in my school to train, and people were coming in from out of town to train with us. So it was truly something that you would have as a headquarters. So it was the Can-Am chapter headquarters. You know, that being said, I was just beginning. I mean, we did a newsletter, we did a few things. We had the website, we were getting things going, but Remy passed away long before I had to really had that traction I needed to really bring it up to that next level. You know, we were, all the members had access to my curriculum, which if you look at most of the member schools, not directors, the schools that really applied themselves, that was part of my network, they did better because they followed our curriculum, which was it was a proven method of training people to get to their black belts. Mm-hmm. You know, once again, highest yielding school of black belts for Remy. That being said, I think he went back and forth between having a school or having a personal brand and an organization. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I can see that. So what things that might point to that would be periodically the newsletters and things coming out. So every once in a while there'd be some standardization on the camp tests. It would go in and out. It was kind of like, you know, how he wanted to do it that day, and then also a larger vision. And so a little bit, you know, it was, I would say that it's probably gelling more towards the end, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, because Remy was getting serious, because Remy was blowing up. I mean, think about this. Okay. Listen, we all want to crush on our teacher. We all want to do that.
He's the best.
And Remy was. Let's talk about it. This is something if you look at him at that era,
right?
No one was doing what he did.
Yeah.
I mean, he was so international, and he was going into new countries. Mm-hmm. He was expanding left and right. You know, his passing gave other people opportunities. Now, Remy and Inasana were born in the same year. There's a chance that Remy could be with us today. Obviously, that didn't happen. He only stalks one grandmaster. I'm assuming that's Chris.
Yep, Chris again. Yep.
Well, he would be the grandmaster. I would just be the master.
There you go.
So, because in modern there was only one. So, you look at people who are doing things today in the FMA community. I think they would be bigger than they were back in the day, but I don't think they would be the same level as Remy if Remy was still around today.
One of the things that I find is telling about how good Remy is that, you know, we've talked about this before. A lot of your generic modern Chinese practitioners had sort of other FMAers kind of looked askance at them, right? But every single one of them had mad kudos for Remy himself. That doesn't happen,
right?
Unless you're really good. If you're training people that are not so good, but you're amazing, and people can't hold that against you, the people you're producing, that means you're really good.
Yeah, remember, Remy's primary focal point was to make people better practitioners by fusing their primary art with FMA concepts. He was not his main mission at the time was not to develop a Filipino martial artist from the ground up.
Right, but he was spreading those seeds so that you know. I think
so. A few of us could do that.
Yep.
I mean, I made the thing where the modern East 1%ers, but until I realized there's the biker gang issue, which we're going to stay away from that. But
as long
really,
as you don't claim territory, you're fine.
Yeah, I'm not. Well, I'm claiming Buffalo as my territory.
There you go. As long as you don't have a 3-piece rocker, you're fine.
Okay. Well, okay. But I just won't wear my cutout in public. There you go. Yeah. So, at the end of the day, you know, Remy wanted to, because we were in discussions / negotiations of me writing the curriculum for him, because the only thing I wanted was a byline written by Remy Presas and Tim Hartman, you know, and unfortunately he passed away, you know, long before that opportunity. But I mean, this is the guy. We were going to start doing a camp in the Philippines. There was so much stuff that we were working on, and you know, you would have. It was blown up. I mean, he just started to release that new video series. He probably would have had more coming out, because that's when the technology started changing, where you could do your own videos at fairly inexpensive. You know, Germany blew up for him, which means Denmark and Sweden would have had that opportunity. And other countries over there. I mean, they were all Ernesto, but I think you would have seen people bleed over. Monday doing well. Mine not so much. Okay. All right.
Hey, rodent.
So let's get this one. So there's been many diplomas through the years, and some of them have different organizational names on there. Thoughts on that? No. Let me throw the assumption that was made by others. I have a different diploma, so my certification is different than the others who got promoted at the same time as me. What is your? I know my answer. What's your answer? Then I will tell you mine.
Well, to me, I saw different people getting different paper just because that was what was on hand. That's what I saw a lot. So it would be hard for me to say that was somehow different on any given example. But you know, I don't know. So I would say that, you know, from just what I saw, that doesn't speak for itself. But if there was some other intent that I didn't know about, that could happen. If that makes sense. But I wouldn't know that unless it was stated specifically.
So my mindset. Well, okay, there you go. Okay, so, well, let me ask you this. You have your certificates, right?
Yep, I got a lot of different ones.
Are they all the same certificate?
No.
The modern certificates, you've got different ones?
Yep. They all that I looked for is that they had Remy's real signature, And it was from, in my case, I did them all at camps, so I was good to go with that. I didn't really matter what the paper said, as long as it had his signature, and it was at a proven event.
Okay. So, one, Remy would promote you anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
There was at one time people tried to say that you couldn't test outside of camp, which was nonsense.
Or you had to get promoted in Michigan for all things, which is interesting because I think one of the persons that said that was promoted in Texas at camp.
Yeah, that was kind of weird. Yeah. Let's do one right here. So this was the last diploma from Remy I received.
Okay.
International Monterey's Federation.
Yep.
Okay. There we go. Lakan Anim, Datu Hartman. So when we talk about, when people make that comment about, did I have a diploma? Yeah, there it is. And it had the camp host's signature on there. So there you go. But trying to find my other diplomas.
I think you would remember the ones that I have, and like I said, I was trying to dig them out, and I've got them inside the other folder, so I didn't get them out. But remember the ones with the black sort of bamboo around the edges?
Yeah,
that's the ones that we had. The thick, it's a solid bamboo, not the broken bamboo. That was what most of mine looked like, but not all of them.
Yeah.
But that was what was produced for that iteration of the tests. And I've seen situations where they ran out of the run for the camp, and so people said, "Oh, I've got some. Let's use those." And so that's what happened.
So, unless Remy was to tell you otherwise, your mindset would be that the diplomas were the certificates were whatever Remy had on hand at that time. Oh, here we go. I found what I was looking for. I found mostly what I was looking for. Okay, here we go. All right, so I will share this. Okay. So this is taken right off my wall, the one. Let me see if I can just do it straight down the line. Okay, so that was the last diploma.
Mm-hmm.
International Monterey Federation. You had the broken, not the solid one like this, right?
Right, the broken solid sections of bamboo, if you will, around the edges. But
so,
broken, yes.
I want you all to listen to what I'm saying. This was the first time I ever saw this diploma. When I was issued this diploma, this, to my knowledge, had never been in existence before that year. So This may or may not have been a diploma. Now, personally, what this looks like to me is a George Mazak diploma that Remy utilized. Because Jiu-Jitsu karate was a kind of a trademark thing for George. Mm-hmm. So there's my name. The year. Okay. I zoomed in on a couple of these for some people. Okay, so this is my Lacan, the very first black belt. So you go basic black, then first degree.
Yep.
So this is the Modernist Federation of the Philippines.
Okay.
So Brian Z says his came through this, and he didn't know why Remy he got a different one, but he assumed it was under a different banner.
I think that's just, to me, and I'm not trying to be mean, that to me, you'd have to read that into it, because that's not what I saw when people had different certificates. That's just my experience.
So here we go. Here's my Lacan again. There's my Lacan Tatlo.
Okay.
Here's one that you don't see.
Nope.
Unfortunately, the signature down here faded.
I can see it though.
Yeah. There's my Lacan Apat. Lacan Apat. Okay, I had a couple photos of the same one. I don't know why I had so many photos of the same one.
It's hard to sign black on black.
Well, it was actually gold and it faded.
Okay.
And here's the one I'm really the most proud of.
I got one that's like that, except it doesn't have that second to the last line on it.
And there we go. Instructor Tim Hartman. Remy printed these diplomas up for me because he trusted me to promote people without him there, and realizing that I wasn't going to promote people to black belt because only one person had that authority.
Yep.
You know. So I showed you a couple diplomas right there.
Right.
My mindset is very simple. Remy was only one man, and he was the one that signed it all.
Yep. He promoted because he was the decider, and he signed, so he was the thing. So again, that's the only part that matters to me.
Yeah. All right, here we go.
But that's just my take. There's a few questions in here.
Printers, computers, master filed, lost but witnessed. Most of my important any style. Okay.
Yep.
When I first met Datu, I got the idea to scan and take in case. Yep. There we go.
I did that early on. Yep.
Okay. Hello from back from the gym.
Hey, Eric. Good to see Eric.
We love Eric. I love you, Eric. So Lacan black belt is a black belt with one stripe. No. Do
you want to take this or should I take it?
Why don't you take point on this one?
Okay. So there's two. Well, I'm not going to go into the possibilities of kind of misinterpretations of the ranks, but for whatever reason, there was a rank before Lacan Isa, which was first degree, called Lacan. And often, but not always, that was probationary. When I got Lacan, before I got my ISA, it was not probationary. Same with my students, but there's others that got Lacan and it was probationary, which means it was good for a year. But some people say it was always probationary. It was not. Some people say that was a mistake. It could well be. I don't know. I wasn't there. I think Tim has more information on that. But for whatever reason, there was, after Brown, there was Lacan, and then you counted through the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Okay, so two typos. Terry Warham admitted to this, and Remy was there. What he did is he took the title of the belt, Lika, brown belt.
Right. Oh, that's right. Yeah, it happened to Brown too. Yeah.
So there was 4 browns.
Yep.
And then it was black belt, then 1st through 10th. And unintentionally, he took the title and included that in the rank structure.
Right.
So Terry unintentionally added 2 belts to modern ace, and Remy just stuck with it. And when I first tested, or when I got promoted, when I got my Lacan, the probationary Lacans were supposed to wear a 3rd degree brown until they got their probation removed.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, we didn't have that.
Well,
I mean, no, he didn't say that for us when he did probationary. He just said that they all wore the black, and they could wear the red stripe around the trim if they wanted to. But that's interesting. Yeah, I think you had said that before. I'd forgotten that detail.
Now, I think what some people did, what they just did is Remy didn't make a point of saying that. He just promoted them. You know.
Well, and if you came back in a year, it's pretty easy to get your non-probationary and you're good to go. So
there you go.
Difference. Do your work, kind of a deal.
Yeah, my phone just blew the heck up.
I've never said that before.
Yeah, no, you never said do your work.
Nope, never.
So, and that's it. I think I personally had a problem with giving a black belt if it was probationary.
Yep.
I wish what he would have done is say, all right, wear the plain black, not the red trim border. Or just say, I remember one guy locally. We're at my house watching the video afterwards. We had a little party and a celebration, and he got okay. So here's the thing: on more than one occasion, I've been there when someone got a probationary black belt and others got full black belt.
Right.
So the 91 summer camp in Buffalo, the last camp, I got my ISA. 3 of my guys got Lacan, and 1 person got a probationary Lacan. And what we said, he goes, love you guys too, and welcome back. And we were at my house, and he goes, all right, well, and I wish it wasn't probationary. I'm like, well, you have an option. You wear the probationary or just wear your brown belt. And, of course, he got quiet and wore his black belt. Well, I don't believe in probation. You're the black belt out. Well, then I guess you're not a black belt. So and it just didn't like it. I'm like, dude, you showed improvement. Unfortunately, it was too far behind the other candidates, and it could have been better. That's all.
Well, people take those things personally, and I get it, except for I also don't get it. The guy who decides, it's his style, his organization. He is the organization. If we want to go there, it's up to them. I don't understand the problem. You know what you did. You know what you're good at and bad at if you're honest with yourself. And they want to give you some more time. Okay.
Yeah.
You still know what you know. You still don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. What we generally do in our organization now, we're using it for our virtual promotions.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
so
Lacan.
Yeah, Lacan and Dayang.
Yep.
All right. Okay. Lacan is the male rank. Dayang is a female rank. I really don't give a damn how you identify. If you want me to refer to you as a Dayang, I will do so. If you want me to refer to you as a Lacan, I will do so. Don't know, don't care. That's it. I've got no skin in the game. I personally just believe I would love that if everyone was born in the bodies they identify with, it would be better for everyone, because the world sucks. People suck. And they just can't deal with the fact that things are different around them. That's it. Okay. But I got no skin in the game in that. I'm okay. And if someone who's born a female wants the Lacan rank, we haven't had that happen yet. If you want to identify one way or another, I'm more than happy to help you out with that. The only place where it doesn't is competitive sports. I will draw the line there.
Some of the other FMA styles, they do Lacan for everybody. They don't worry about it.
So Ernesto always did that.
Yep.
Everyone got Lacan.
Yep.
Dayang, definition is wife of the
right,
Datu.
Exactly.
I don't need any more wives. Yeah. So this really wasn't about whether Remy had a organization or not. Listen, there's definitely times. What if you identify as a turnip? I'm more than happy to go with it. Hell, as I always say, I don't care if you identify as a man, a woman, or a toaster. Whatever. I'm all down with that. I got your back.
Right.
I got your back. Jason Arnold, how you doing, brother?
Hey, PG Jason, how you doing?
So he helped me.
Canadian, some more Canadian
in Wallaceburg, teaching out there.
Yep.
A good time, and then a smiley face. That's the only time I really care about what you identify as is if competition sports have to be divided by gender, then it's what you're born. I just, there's too much nonsense out there right now where, men who have someone was born a man identifying as a female and are either destroying the women in competitive or actually hurting them with that one MMA fighter who's fractured 3 women's skulls. Right. If you want to do male, female, and other, I'm okay with that. But, and one of the things that women don't have the advantage, I think men have a training advantage, is that if I identified as a man, I train against, or if I'm a man, I've trained against men all my life who are bigger, tougher, rougher, depending on what the sport is. And all of a sudden, tomorrow identify as a woman. The women didn't have that same opportunity to train with people of that nature. Not the same way. If I'm playing football all the time, I mean, if Mike Tyson tomorrow ends up identifying as a woman and they let him box, I mean, even in the same weight category, who hits like Tyson?
Right.
But I mean, that's it. And once again, I don't care. I have friends my friend Tommy is now Tia. And we're good buds when I say him, because everyone knows I refer to him as him and talking about him, but Tia, it's always her. It's always good. But I see Tommy, Tia, whatever, big hug. Hey, how you doing? What's going on? Never ask the question, well, if you're always identifying this way, why did you ever hit on me? But, but at the end of the day, that's it. So Lacan was the designation that Remy used for male ranks, Dayang for female. It was your black, and then first degree was Lacan or Dayang Isa, then Delaware, then Tatlo Apan, so on and so forth. I do like the idea of just doing one title straight across the board. Would we ever consider changing the name of our ranks?
I don't. It's a foreign word, right? So it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
That, and you think about mankind and look at it that way. Whatever.
What do we feel about doing Lacan straight across the board?
We could. I was going to add one little point though. So for whoever, Matt that asked that, Lacan. So by the time you get Lacan de la Wa, right, 2nd degree black, that's your 3rd level of black.
Now, we don't do that normally. We go right to 1st degree.
Right.
But while Remy was alive, so I was a 6th degree black belt in modern Ernest, which means I have 7 black belts of modern Ernest.
Yep.
So, and at the time, I was the only active American at that level. Actually, there's only 2 there was Dieter who crossed in. And then same with Bambit, because he was promoted in 99 to 6th when they formed the IMAF Philippines.
But a chapter of larger IMAF Remy.
IMAF-P was a subdivision of IMAF.
That's how it was always portrayed when Remy was alive.
Yeah, well, I mean, the IMAF, okay, no, let's start over. Because this is all part of this.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about the IMAF.
Right.
The Philippines chapter didn't start until 99.
Right. It was not the headquarters of the IMAF.
No. Because where did Remy live?
In the States.
He was a naturalized U.S. citizen.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's it. At Pride Martial Arts, the first black belt is just black, not 1st degree. Yeah, a lot of people are going that way.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
No, I'm seeing a lot of people doing that.
Interesting.
But originally, it was supposed to be just Isa. Ernesto didn't do that. He went right to black belt.
Okay.
Or no, I'm sorry. He went right to 1st degree. I'm a 3rd degree, but 4 black belts. Yep. See, that's why, and this is exactly why we got rid of that.
It's confusing.
Yeah. We only utilize it for, special exceptions.
I mean, it's neat to have in your pocket when it fits, but the standard now is...
It's a conditional or probationary black belt. Conditional black belt would be...
Or transfer, right? Yeah. You can transfer
from another organization. Yeah, I've had, it's funny, because I had that guy ask me about transferring. I said, sure, we can talk about it, and I never got back, and went back and forth several times.
Right. Started zero. There's Rich. Yep. See, there's that nerd thing going again. You're right, Rich.
If I understand what you're saying is black belt. Black belt.
Not quite.
So BB would be 1.
Right. But Lacan de la Wa would be called 2nd degree black, even though it was the 3rd level.
Yeah. But we got rid of that as the norm. So what we're using is like someone has the skill set they're supposed to have, but they're missing curriculum. Then we've awarded people that were coming in from other organizations. Sam Wolf, perfect example. He was an IMAF person. He had different curriculum. He worked with Brian Johns and Dan. I think mostly Brian Johns when he was in Ohio with Dan McConnell. Came in. We worked with him for a while. We promoted him to Lacan because he had the skill set, but he was missing too much of the curriculum for him to. It wouldn't have been fair for our ISAs out there to have him as a Lacan ISA. Speaking of one of your female Dayangs, I like the title. Yeah, okay. I know, but you're not uptight.
Yep.
Yeah, Brian and Dan. Yep, that's what I said. Yeah. So, I don't listen. As far as this one goes here, that's a traditional thing. I like to keep it because it's traditional. Just like when I'm in the World Brotherhood, the World Sikh-Around Brotherhood, because when it started in the 50s, it was all men. Mm-hmm. It wasn't meant to alienate women. It's just that's what it was. I've saw other organizations that use the word brotherhood. And because it was a bunch of guys that started it, and then I'm like, well, you really didn't think that through, did you? No, I'm getting a lot of heat for this, but I know that the intent wasn't there.
Right.
He goes, they all see each other. It was a Kempo group. Hey, brother. Hey, brother. Hey, brother. Hey, brother. Hey, brother. And once in a while, there'd be a sister there.
Hey, sister. Yep.
But it was all a bunch of guys that hung out together, and that's what they started.
And other organizations started out brotherhood, and they weren't so far along that they couldn't change to family, which is fine too.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, personally, I like keeping the tradition. You know,
If it's not broke, don't fix it.
well, just like what I don't like is right now everyone's trying to change. Okay, so in the UFC, they do the Superman punch, an MMA, I should say. Well, it started. I think it actually started because they watched Achilles in Troy, because Brad Pitt did that when he killed that guy at the very beginning with the spear.
Okay.
But he did with the spear, he didn't punch. But in the UFC, they named it after Superman. Now they're trying to call it the superhero punch. I don't know. No, it's the Superman punch because they based it off that character.
That character's name.
If it was based off Supergirl,
It'd be a Supergirl punch.
or the Wonder Woman punch, I'd be down with that. You know, I'm not going to change it because people don't like. And with the Dayang, I'd pretty much keep it there. But once again, if someone identified and they talked to me ahead of time, I'm more than happy to do the proper promotion in whatever title that they feel comfortable in. Because once again, I've got no skin in the game. It doesn't affect me. I'm not uptight about that stuff. I just want people to be happy. Super down with the WW punch. There we go.
All right, let's come up with a technique for Wonder Woman punch.
Yeah, we got to get a Wonder Woman punch. So yeah, the IMA. Okay, so listen, the mother organization was wherever Remy was. Let's put it this way: the core organization was where Remy was. So, and because this is a little misnomer here, a little like that. Oh, could I get a
33 and a third?
A third, yeah.
3 and a third. But I like 33 and a third even better. Then you could outrank Master Ken.
Master Ken. There we go. So wherever Remy was the headquarters.
Yep.
But if you want to look at where the headquarters was, okay, here we go. I don't like the fact that Dan Anderson put the will out in its entirety. But it's nice that it was another source that had it in print that talked about the will as it relates to the martial arts. And none of the people who are living in the Philippines today were included in the will to take over the art. Mm-hmm. It was mostly his Americans. Mm-hmm. It was his Americans, 2 Europeans, one vagabond, which was Shashir, and Roland Dantes, who was a Filipino, but he would be more of a kuya than anything else, big brother. But if it's Wonder Woman, a master of the golden rope dart. All right, so the organization was based in the States. That's the headquarters. That's where everything was happening. Everything else was to supplement the United States. Mm-hmm. So there's a Canadian chapter, there's a German chapter, there's a Philippine chapter, but the main organization was here in the States. And if the Filipinos really wanted to get more involved with the art, they should have probably had someone like yourself or myself to go over and catch them up on the material that they were missing, because obviously Remy had been here for over 25 years and a quarter century of development of the art and evolution, could look like a completely different art.
Well, and people always recoil at that, but you can actually see it. I mean, there's things that he came up with, he developed, he grew into. He was changing all the way to the end there. So if you missed that, I would think that you would want to catch some of that stuff up.
Ego and insecurity is a terrible thing here. So, all right. So let's hear. What say you there, Ty? We've got full-time brand, full-time organization, or part-time of each, or somewhere in the middle.
Somewhere in the middle. But as we pointed out before, a lot of what Remy did is all about Remy, not in a narcissistic way, but in a anchor way, if that makes sense.
Okay.
He didn't need to build himself up, but it was all about what he was doing, what his vision was, what his decisions were, and that was with him, not an organization.
Okay. So my take on this, was that he wanted this to be a full-blown organization.
Yeah.
He himself didn't have the means to do it. And I think the primary thing is because of the lack of technology and the people to commit to help as support, it was more of a brand, but they had moments of brilliance as an organization. I think some people did some really good things for short periods of time. And unfortunately, Remy being a vagabond all over the place made it hard for people to do things. And the lack of communication, I identify as a what? Bandalonian?
I have no idea. And I don't even know who that is. Maybe it's Tim Dobson.
Oh, Tim Dobson. There we go. Hey, Tim. So I think he wanted it to be bigger than it was. It was beyond his means because it wasn't in his wheelhouse. He was too busy teaching the art, which he shouldn't have been. He should have been teaching the black belts, and the black belts would teach the people. But not enough of us had committed to the art to learn it to the level that he needed us to be to continue on to the next generation. I think we need to do a show on what the art within your art is. Personally, I think the art within your art mindset is not about the physical portion of the arts. It's more about the testing criteria. Because at the end of the day, I don't recall Remy saying to anybody, okay, all you Kempo people out there, this is how we're going to do it for you guys. All you karate people, this is how we're going to do it. And blah, blah, blah. I think what it came down to was that he taught all the same material and he gave everyone a license to interpret it or blend it in their own primary arts. But I don't think he showed anyone how to do it.
Well, he also worked with what you brought. So like you're moving along and he said, yeah, like that. So you automatically move a certain way and that's okay for that context.
Yeah. But we can get more into that on another show.
Yeah.
So next week's show is who should be the authority or who should be allowed to promote in black belt and modern East. This has been a big pet peeve on my things, and I actually have some solutions to help out. I've seen a whole bunch of promotions as of late that make no sense. No rhyme, no reason, just I meet you the first time and I'm going to promote you to 6th degree or anything else of that nature. And we're going to put some things out for that. The week after, I'm really leaning towards what is the art within your art? What do you think?
Yeah. Excuse me. Oh, this. I mean, could do that. Yeah.
I would say no. It is not equal. It is different. I think it's another category. I guess we have to ask a.
But also depends. What do you mean by equal? You talking about equal in effectiveness or equal in a good representation of Remy's ultimate journey, or was it a equal in terms that they're both valid pieces of modern East experience? I mean, there's a lot of ways you could take. What do you mean by equal?
Yeah, I would say right off the bat, modern, quote unquote, modern East from the Philippines prior to 99. Because that's when Remy went back to start, getting back involved. I would say it would probably evolved into being a different art that you could see that the roots, it would be related, but it wouldn't be the same.
Which doesn't mean more, greater, or worser. No. It just means different.
And representation of the system of what's in America.
Well, I don't understand the question. So here's what I'm going to jump on you, Terrell. So if Remy developed the rest of it in America and taught it only in America, I think the representation of the system of what's in America is got to come from that side. I don't know why, what would come from that evolution of Remy's evolution that wasn't in America.
So let me throw it out this way. I'm going to be, because guys, I'm the guy that doesn't have the chaser. Yeah, but which is better? Okay. Once again, what are we asking?
He knows what he's doing.
He knows he's just being Paulo. So here's what I would say: the Filipinos couldn't pass our test unless Remy was being generous. If Remy wanted to sit there and say, "Oh, look how I think Remy, if the Filipinos came over to test, and I'm not saying like Riddell, I'm talking if he brought his students over, it would end up being more of a competency test, a proficiency test. And Remy would award them appropriately. And I think they look really good because Riddell trains his people well.
Yep.
Okay. That's why, to me, if you want to see Remy, I would say if the most accurate representation of Remy's art in the Philippines is Riddell de Guck. Even though it's Das and it's evolved its own way, he's probably the most accurate representation out there. Or the closest thing.
I think it's a faithful evolution that fits well. Doesn't mean it's the same, but I think it's a faithful evolution that fits well. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I would say if you're looking at people that can bang overall in martial arts, I'd say the Americans would have the advantage. And the phrase was overall, because we would be talking punching, kicking, locking, throwing. And many of those people that Remy, when the whole thing with the art within your art, my mindset is more on the testing criteria. And part of your art would be your main art. If it's the art within your art and that's what you're getting promoted in, basically it's based on your primary art as well. So we've had champions and world-class martial artists that have trained like Ron Van Browning. He might not be able to outstick him, but if he got his hands on him, he would destroy them. He can outbox them, he can tie fight him, he can grapple him, and he can probably hit him with a stick once or twice to get in and do all those things.
Well, I mean, another example of that is the idea of, all the evolution that Remy did just with his friendship with Wally J, right? The Filipinos didn't have that same connection to that small circle kind of connection to modern East. So there's a whole piece that's missing.
So who's this old man who can still bang?
That would be Chris.
Okay, good. So here's what I would say. I would look at, like Paul and I talked about today's stick fighters versus he thought that today's stick fighters would beat yesterday's old stick fighters. Well, which is the thing. But if you sat there,
he's going to get him. He's going to get started again.
I don't want to get him started.
You're both are going to get started.
The thing here is, the old stick fighters would rely specifically on stick fighting, where the new ones would incorporate grappling, Thai boxing, and all this other stuff. Well, that's kind of the equivalent of the Filipinos doing modern East and Remy's new brand of students doing modern East. They would be like the MMA fighters that they'd be like more the Dog Brothers, not in fighting ability, but the versatility stuff that they would bring to the table.
Well, let's talk about that evolution, that versatility, right? We'd already talked about the small circle. Also, Balintawak pieces were coming more to the fore.
Well, I'm not even talking about that, too. I mean, you take someone who's a champion judo practitioner.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Mindset, yada, yada, yada. Okay, yeah. But
you guys should have a round two.
So let's think about this. Let me see what this one says here. So are you saying Americans' availability of multiple styles allowed them to be greater evolution of more completely art? So what I'm saying is that Remy, the art within your art, was not a true representation of Filipino martial arts by itself. It was how to take your primary art, enhance your primary system without compromising the integrity of that base system by adding Filipino martial arts to it. So when Remy would judge those people, it was an overall competency with their primary art and Remy's concepts blended together. Where people like me, I did this as an East standalone. So I think if you had the Americans as a whole fighting the Filipinos, the Americans would have a lot more skill set. Like, okay, Chuck Goss was a skilled judo practitioner. Can you imagine a Filipino going in the clinch with Chuck? What would happen? And they wouldn't have that in their repertoire. That's what I'm saying. So you got to compare apples to apples, and it's not. It's apples and oranges.
I was going to add one thing to that, Sean. I want to make sure we're careful when we talk evolution. I'm specifically talking about Remy's evolution of what he was teaching, how he was teaching, right, how he's exploring and making his own art continually evolve from his own real perspective. Right. This is Remy, not Americans evolving art further. I haven't even touched that yet. No. And I don't think I will today.
Yeah. We've talked about this a whole bunch of times, and I've got into quasi debates, and I've got into a little with Chris Chu a couple times on some shows over on Dean's, and because I was actually kind of not expecting what he was. I was kind of blindsided by some things. Kind of questioning me on what Modern East was. I'm like, well, I would know what Modern East is. The thing here is, I don't think he gets what the idea of what Remy's art was. I guess he looks through an art within your art person like his father, who did Kung Fu and tapped and blended all these things together. Now, that is a good example of how Remy's art can affect somebody from another system. So I always said, if you want to learn, okay, let's talk about the Mats. Okay. If you want to learn how to do Kempo and Arnis together, and you didn't want to do the heavy lifting, you didn't want to learn it and then come up with your own synthesis. You want the shortcut to get in there. I would work with Brian Zolinsky. Brian came up in Kempo. He learned it as the art within your art. Okay. He's got that blend. Okay. Now you want to have like an Okinawan background. Kenny Smith was a solid Ishinru practitioner. So whether or not you did Ishinru, maybe you did another Okinawan martial art, but he would be a much better way to show you how to put that in together. And we can go through all the masters of Tappy Tappy or all the modernist people out there. They can do that. If you wanted to learn Remy's lessons as untainted as possible, I would be that guy you talk to. That's how Ty and I have this connection, because Eric Alexander had all these people to reach out to when he was in Connecticut. He was in the same area as Sifu Lowry. He didn't reach out to Sifu Lowry. He didn't reach out to Richard Roy. He didn't reach out to the Claps. He didn't reach out to any of those guys out there. He reached out to me in 91. And I asked him, why me? I go, because everyone does a blend and I want to learn it as untainted as possible. So if I put something in there, it's my choice. I want to get Remy's lessons, not somebody else's.
I'm gonna dogpile on that just for 1 second. I got a great example of that. So I have a Kung Fu background, and of course I'm going to resonate real well with Kung Fu folks. Mm-hmm. So when Randy would show me some things, and it felt really well, he could show me how it works, and he showed his Kung Fu take on things. It was great. However, whenever I could on that stuff, I would go talk to Remy and make sure that I got his lesson on the concept, not Randy's tainted maybe so everyone get straight here a little bit too. If Tim says tainted, he's not saying it's bad. It's just bad in the terms of getting Remy's lesson. So think about it as different than what Remy would say. So when I wanted to get, and he can correct me if I'm wrong, but what I wanted to get is I wanted to get Remy's take on the cool thing that Randy showed me to make sure I was still getting Remy's lesson out of it, if that makes sense. So I go back to the source because, yes, Randy and I resonated. Awesome. Great. We got some good material. And then I needed to check with Remy's vision.
Two things on that. Mm-hmm. I'm going to double down with him on this. Mm-hmm. So there's a couple art. I'm really good at separating my systems, except for two. When I do my Kun Tao and Sikaran, I'm the first to tell people I've got the eyes. I'm a better martial artist than the people with the same rank as I do in those arts. Okay. So I'm a second degree in both. Actually, I should probably have the time to be a fifth in both. We can get into rank structure of that down the road. But when I'm around my brothers and sisters in Kun Tao and Sikaran, I tell people I am not the best representation of the art. I can do the art. I can pass the tests. I do all that stuff. But if you want to see the way the forms, like my forms are okay, I'm a 230 pound, lost 8 pounds, 230 pound white guy, that's 5'11". Okay. My brothers and sisters are Filipinos that I have by 100 pounds. They're about 5'4", and they can do the stances low and deep the way the art's supposed to. My body does not allow me to do that. And they sit there and go, your forms are almost like your walking forms. And I'm looking at myself. My stances are deeper than Ishinru, which Buffalo is an Ishinru town, but they're not known for deep stances. But my stance work is still too high for Kun Tao and Sikaran, well, specifically Kun Tao. So I'm always telling people, I go, I can tell you about the art. I can teach you how to do the art. I've got better eyes than the people. I've corrected the people that sat on my black belt test for me becoming of a first degree, and I'm correcting them during Kun Tao gatherings because of my martial background. I do this whole thing. But hands down, if you were looking for a representation of the art. I am not that person. Okay. I'm a culmination of all my martial experience, and it's always modern first. So if I was going to teach you Kun Tao, I would always take you to the source so you get a better sample material to know what it's supposed to look like versus my interpretation of it. And that's the same way I think about modern Chinese.
Yeah.
Too many people out there.
Perfect time to bring up Sean's quote or Sean's post. Yep.
Going back to the well gives us the clearest water. And there you go. And that's what I'm trying to say, because I'm not trying to say anything that's bad. But if you want to get Remy's lessons, there's not many qualified people out there to show it. Mm-hmm. Because you get a synthesis. Hey, who do I say has mad skills all the time?
Lots of people.
Well, what's the one person we talk about a lot on here? I have something in common with him. Kelly Warden, mad skills. And when I watch him, you can see modernities in what he does.
Yep.
But you can also see other influences. Mm-hmm. And if you want to become a good martial artist, he's a guy I would recommend you to go to. But if you want to do Remy's art, he's not the guy I would recommend. You get bits and pieces blended in with everything else. But he's got mad skills. And Rich said it. Yep, Kelly Warden. Okay, so here we go. So today's modernities, if it's the art within your art, is it pure such as yourself, Datu? You train directly with modernities only. So the pure versus the art within your art, which is best representation of modernities? So here's the deal. Our group strives to do what Remy taught, because if we're as a mixologist, here we go. How many different drinks can you make with rum? Okay, fill in the blank. Let's say it's 10.
Yep.
Okay. What happens when you run out of rum? It's no longer that it's no longer that rum punch is no longer rum punch when you run out of rum. We're the rum.
Trying to be the rum, yes.
Now the art within your art is a good example of how Remy's art and actually it's how Filipino martial arts can help all arts. Mm-hmm. Because if you really look at it, a lot of people out there are doing the art within your art. Mm-hmm. How many people have cross-trained into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because they needed a ground game? They don't do the art. They just took the bits and pieces. Here's the thing. It's called cross-training. Remy just coined a phrase. Right, and actually, it was the magazines coined the phrase, right, and Remy ran with it. Right. So I can really get sick of hearing about the art within your art because nobody knows what the hell it is. I mean, and I know what the hell.
Well, the danger of that is if you have a phrase like that's not well defined and it just is what it is, at some point it ends up being whatever somebody wants it to be, and then it gets really muddy really fast.
And that's what I'm seeing right now. All these people are saying all these things, and I'm even seeing this from second gen people who weren't there and cannot comment about it. You cannot tell me what Remy wanted when you weren't there. Well, I was told that Remy would do this, that, and the other thing. I'm like, well, it doesn't matter what you were told. You weren't there. Shut up. And I'm sick.
You can certainly. I mean, they can certainly say what they like. That's awesome.
Yeah. And it is what it is. But I mean, okay, this is my rant. Here we go. The rant came up in the middle of it. Just don't tell me what Remy wanted when you never met the man. Well, I met him when I was 2 years old. Shut up. Just shut the hell up. And too many people are doing this stuff. Well, I was told, stop what was told. It should be, hey, Tim, I heard this. What are your thoughts on that? Here's one for you, Ty. And we're going to do a poster or show on this one. I was talking to someone recently after the latest debacle on the internet due to my post and, taking a shortcut and all this other stuff. The comment was made to me that, well, Remy pitted his students against each other. What are your thoughts on that?
I didn't see him doing that.
No. Now, what I did see is people getting jealous or insecure and make comments to Remy. I had someone walk up at a camp, talk to me about this person they had a problem with, and a half hour later, before this person's test, Remy came up and parroted everything this person said because this person put stuff in Remy's ear. Uh-huh. I saw that stuff. I saw people playing Remy, which is not pitting people against each other.
Right.
Did he try to light a fire underneath your butt to inspire you to do more? Yeah, I've seen him do. I mean, Bobby Sullivan and I, we were best buds, and we were arch rivals. Well, we weren't arch rivals. We were friendly rivals.
Right.
It was a good thing. Oh my God, these two, it's like KC and the Bills, both quarterbacks love each other. They went to school with each other. They're all good. They're like, but it's like, that's going to be the big rivalry, but that's a good friendly rivalry. It's not an FU rivalry where I want to see you get hurt and all this other stuff. It's the stuff that we want in competitive sports. And Bobby Sullivan and I had that thing. And Remy was the one that lit that little fire underneath us.
Right. The closest thing I ever saw to him pitting against, and this is probably a little bit of talking out of school, but I want to give people a sense that I did get to see some of his mind. He would point out occasionally somebody he might warn you that he doesn't have the same vision or the same commitment that you do. So he'd sort of warn you away from them, but it wasn't saying, hey, attack this person or make sure this person's stuff doesn't work. It was not a pitting. It was a recognition of paths and whether it was productive to cross or whether it was not productive. So that's the
I'm going to read what was written, but I'm not going to tell you who it came from.
Okay. Hey, Renee, yo.
Comes with the territory. Hey, it's about time, Renee. Comes with the territory. Boom. Especially in martial arts, Remy did weird shit often, pitting everyone against each other. It seems that the dissension within modern Ernest is never ending. Okay. So
the latter statement's true.
Yeah. I have seen a vengeful Remy. I have seen Remy wanted me to once be part of said revenge, and I stayed away from that. Mm-hmm. But I have never seen Remy pit people against each other. Mm-hmm. I have seen and been a victim of people talking in Remy's ear and getting him spun up. I was in the room when Remy had done stuff like that. I'm feeling this. I'm feeling much better after the burrito.
There you go. Well, I'd also say one other thing. Let's go the other direction. I would see plenty of times where he would encourage totally disparate groups, and this happened in Texas several times, totally disparate groups that otherwise wouldn't interact and train together to say, hey, you guys need to get together and train. That, to me, would be a great opportunity to pit things against each other, but he didn't. He said, hey, let's come together and help each other.
He did this for me. I saw him do it for others. Hey, you should have so-and-so in your club.
Yep.
Theoretically cutting into his finances. Mm-hmm. This was not Remy.
Right.
But Remy trusted the people around him. And, well, I mean, I remember. So, and this is what I want to finish with, and I'm done, unless you've got other things to say. I'm so tired. So one of the things is when the blow up happened on the internet, Earl Tullis made a comment that Remy wanted us all to get together and the IMA underneath the IMAF. And he's right. The IMAF that Remy wrote in the will that wanted a whole bunch of us to work together, not the coup that happened, in my opinion, where Randy Shea and others took over the organization and cut other people out. Never executing the will. And miraculously, a day or two before Remy died, his estate disappears overnight. And then what is it, about 7-8 years later, the Motts all got taken by somebody. It may have been that same guy.
Right.
And for tens of thousands of dollars, because somebody embezzled money from their company and all this other stuff. Okay. But this is the guy that was leading all this stuff. That's not the IMAF that Remy wanted us to be part of. Remy wanted us all to be together as a family and vote on things as equals. Mm-hmm. He wanted all the students together, no matter if someone was better or not. He didn't cut people out. He wanted to be inclusive, not exclusive.
So I'm a big fan of the will for a lot of reasons. And one of them is the time and effort that put into that and the thought that was put into that and the breadth that was put into that. I think the intent, even if he was changing his approach at the end, and maybe he was, maybe he wasn't, right? I know different people feel different ways along that. But even without that, if you have this long-term, several iterations will across several different lawyers that had a kind of a same growing kind of trend, and then all of a sudden something changes, I think the very least you have to do is at least reconcile the intent behind that will with the current approach. And that wasn't even tried.
Well, at the end of the day, the will wasn't executed.
Yep.
And the first thing they do in a will is they say, I'm of sound body and mind. Because they don't want a life-changing situation like finding out you're going to die and make rash decisions. Remy had that will worked on for years, maybe over a decade. David, actually, I know that for a fact. Right. David Pajak was the first attorney, and then eventually Brett Salafia, who was a classmate of Brian Zawolinsky's, was the second, and then the third was Kevin Black.
Yep.
And pretty much the will was pretty much similar throughout all of its variations. They're just little nuances.
Right.
Remy would not have tried to cut any of us out.
Yep. I firmly believe that.
Some people were not included in the will. Hey, if you didn't make the cut, I'm sorry about that. But here's the problem. No one asked me to be part of anything. I'm pretty sure nobody who was included outside the Motts were asked to be part of anything.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't given the opportunity. Now, I resigned from the organization while Remy was alive when he resigned because of his medical condition. And I realized the nonsense and how people were, it was very hard for me to stay part of it. And to the point where Kevin Black, who didn't tell me a damn thing until after Remy passed, and didn't give, he didn't even give me the will. What he told me was Remy didn't want this to happen. Remy was, Kevin Black was the one that wrote my letter of resignation because he saw the statement and go, this is bullshit. That's not what Remy wanted. But because he took the attorney-client privilege so seriously, I stood up at Kevin's wedding. He was one of my top black belts. He didn't tell me a damn thing. And now he's protecting our country too. So his ethics and commitment to the letter of the law, I have no problems with. But when he saw that stuff go down, he's like, I can't get into it, Tim, but this is not what Remy wanted for you. Mm-hmm. And I'm not the only one that didn't have that same opportunity. Mm-hmm.
And just to be fair, people might note, and if you've seen the will, I didn't make the cut, so I have no dog in the fight, but I still am a fan for the reasons I said. So it should have been at least reconciled somehow.
So when everyone was piling on me for the show that was coming up next week, and they were making all these comments, and like I said, Earl said we all wanted to be Remy, all of us together underneath the IMAF. He's right, 100%. Earl, but not your IMAF, not the IMAF that came about Remy's death, that people took advantage. My opinion, that is
Remy's IMAF.
It was Remy's IMAF, which was in the will that was never executed. Because if it was executed, no one ever came to me to talk to me about it. And if they did, and actually, I know because my paralegal looked into it and it was never executed. And even if they said, well, we didn't have to talk to you because you resigned. No, I'm in the will. I have I should have been given the opportunity after Remy passed to say yay or nay or forming this organization. But I wasn't gonna the thing I've got coming out this week, seniority versus elder. I was the elder, but I was also the senior. Because one of the things I talk about in this is that I looked for someone to see who could fulfill that role that Remy had. And there was no one in between Remy and I. No one had that commitment to the art. No one could take me to that next level. And that's why I do what I'm doing. I was the Can-Am director. There was Remy and then the Can-Am director. And these guys were I've taught seminars for these guys. I've helped them learn the art. And, I would teach them at camps. Hell, Chuck Goss hosted me in. Oh, Spain. In Spain, you are all senor.
As long as you're not, let's see if I can get this. El Señor Sangrado Culo. As long as you're not that, you're okay.
Yeah. But I digress. But I mean, at the end of the day, the IMAF, in my opinion, died with Remy. As far as what his dream was, because amazing Ty, because he wanted us to be together. He should still be a junior. I would still be a junior. Yep. And it couldn't go on unless they attempted to execute the will and see what would happen. Now, would it have been a train wreck? Would all those people on the list continued? No, they wouldn't have all continued.
Right.
Some of those guys had already retired.
But that could be their decision, not somebody else's.
Exactly. And my last thing was, I remember Randy Shea reached out to me and said, "Oh, we're working on getting the rights for the videos." Oh, for what? For the kids? Oh, what? All of the kids? No, just Ramia and Joseph. I'm like, well, what about the other 5 kids? Oh, no, we're just doing them for these 2. I'm like, shouldn't that be their choice? Shouldn't you sit there and say, hey, we're really concerned about the kids. We're trying to get the rights back. Do you want your portion, or can we donate that to the 2 youngins who just lost their father, who are under 10 years old? But no. They were never given that option. So, okay. Good evening. My apologies for missed this several
Danny,
discussions.
how you doing?
There you go. And Renee, I want you all to be together. Yeah, for a little rattan therapy. All right. Well, listen, I'm done. Actually, 27 people watching right now. It's been a good show. We've had like in the 30s, So I'm gonna have to apologize for all the internet problems. That's on me. I don't know what's going on. It seems to be pretty strong now. Next week's show. Okay, here we go. Do you have anything to summarize that, or we said it all enough?
I think I've interjected a fair bit. I'm
Okay.
pretty good right now.
Right. So tonight, so next week's show is going to be about promotions to black belt. I've seen a lot of promotions as of late that makes no chance. The rubber chicken salute. There we go. I've seen some promotions that make no sense, no rhyme, no reason. I want to talk about them and some solutions, what I think are fairly logical solutions. But I think as a whole, no matter what your organization is, whatever, and no matter what your art is, we have to look at not promoting people, but producing people. And promoting people to high rank for no reason other than it's a good old boys club doesn't help the art grow. And, I've been doing this as a teenager till today. And I've got some serious concerns. Next week, Ty's going to take a little more point because he's going to kind of ask me, because he knows how I feel about certain things. And I just don't want to spout off. I want people to understand where I'm coming on this, because I'm not trying to be a jerk. What I'm trying, but here's the thing. A lot of people sit there and say, well, Tim's offended me by saying this and doing that. In this particular case, I'm the one being offended. I'm looking at the stuff that's going on there. I find it very offensive. And I think it's very disrespectful for what they're doing to Remy's art. Now, my feelings are mine. They are genuine. When we're done with the show, you can decide whether or not you feel that I have a right to feel the way that I do. But you can't say that my feelings aren't what they are. And when I see all this stuff that goes out on the internet, I'm offended by it and I'm responding to it. But of course, the knee-jerk reaction is Tim's just trying to cause trouble. Because really, I don't give a damn about these people. Stay out of my way. Stay off my radar. Do your own thing. And don't do something that compromises the art. But when you start there and change history of the art because you want a bigger role in it, or start giving rank away like candy, which ends up diluting the rest of the things out there, I get a little, I take offense by that. Kind of lame that non-family members decide what the family actually gets. And Tim, please stop playing with the carabiner. Yeah, that's the one you got me on the. We're doing the show. Hey, by the way, that's for you, Renee. Don't worry, I'll let you know when we have Crazy Hair Week, so then you can be envious that I have hair. But that's okay. Yeah. So okay, I put the carabiner away. So yeah. So next week we're going to talk about that, and I think the week after. How do you feel about the art within your art?
Can you do that? Yeah. I have some
What
thoughts on it, and when I'm talking about the all lowercase, yes.
Yes.
Remy's phrase.
What was Remy's phrase? The art within your art means.
Yep.
So what
or Remy's magazine phrase, whatever you want to call it.
The byline and his teaching concept.
Right.
Was it a teaching concept, or was it rank is becoming a joke? Yes, that's it.
Rank is getting rank.
Rank is definitely getting rank.
Hey, Jeff.
Hey, Jeff.
How you doing?
Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Well, listen, as always. So reminder. Yeah, I'll do this instead of the carabiner. Ties at Kindred Martial Arts or Kindred Protective Arts this weekend in the Metro Kansas City area. Reach out to Jackie Bradbury for information on that. Check out the website,
kindredprotects.com
or World Modern East Alliance, worldmoderneast.com or wmoderneast.com. Go to the events section, you can get a link there. Look on the Facebook pages, Kindred Protective Arts, as well as the World Modern East Alliance. We have them up on those. So that's this weekend. We've got the Marival Delavara, whatever. You've got the camp that PG Chad and Ty are doing down in the Metro Delaware, Maryland, Virginia area. That's coming up at the end of the month. The weekend prior to that is the Northern Ontario training camp. And then our instructors camp is going to be September 29th through October 1st, if I'm not mistaken. And July 17th, we're doing the next hybrid seminar, and that is going to be the release of Panatukan 2.0. We have a slightly different delivery system we're using on that. So a little new structure. Oh, look at that. Hey. Hi, Dean from FMA Talk. Nice try, Dean. Yeah, he just taught down with Bobby and Dan Medina and a few other guys. So looking forward to seeing that. When everyone gets rank, it reduces the meaning of rank in the organization. Yep. All right. Well, listen. LOL. Well, listen. As always, please stay safe and stay sane. This is Datu Tim.
And PG Ty. Take care, everyone.
All right, you all. See you soon.